587. Continue your exhibit B.
My Lord, we intended in regional collections for Eastern region to demonstrate the fact that those tallies there, the tallies that were arrived at were not exactly reflecting the votes.
We come to that tally in due course, but I'm telling you that even that tally, assuming it is right, will not make a difference as to whether or not second respondent crossed the 50% threshold. But we'll come to that. So now, from your exhibit B, the petitioner obtained 6,213,182. Not so.
Yes, my Lord.
Now, can you tell the court what that figure is as a percentage of the 13,119,460?
If the tally for the petitioner is correct as stated here, the percentage will come to 47.359.
But even if it is not correct, what is it? Because this, we are talking about
47.359%.
So whether correct or not, that is the percentage, not so.
That is the percentage reflected in these figures.
Now, so I'm putting it to you that here again, second, your petitioner had not crossed the 38% threshold, more than 38% threshold.
According to this data, yes.
And now, you notice that these figures on exhibit B, your exhibit B, do not contain the Petition South figures. Not it?
Yes, my Lord.
So what the chairperson of the first respondent said on 9 December was that if you were to add the whole registered voter population of Petition South to your petitioner's total value vote, it will still not make a difference as to who has crossed the threshold. Is that not so?
Yes, my Lord.
Is that not correct?
She said so.
But is that calculation not correct? Is that, unless I calculate. Okay, so I'll take you to it. So, you are invited to add the total voter population, registered voter population of Petition South, which is 128,018 to the 13,119,460. Please, I know what I'm doing. I'm prepared for this thing. You add the total voter population, registered voter population of Petition South, to the total valid votes here, which is 13,119,460.
My Lord, when you add the total registered population of Petition South to the 13,109,460, yes, I got the figure 13,247,478. And
What figure did you get?
13,247,478.
Now,
Okay, then let's do it again.
now, can you tell the court what is the percentage of the second respondent's 6,730,587 of that figure? We got it wrong.
Lord, it comes up to 50.806.
Now, if you add the whole of Petition South votes to the petitioner's valid votes as of that time, tell the court how much it comes to.
Petitioner's valid votes as per this figure.
Yes. That is 6,213,182 plus 128,018.
Please, can you repeat the Petition
128,100 and 28,018. 018.
128018.
Yes.
No, there's some fundamental problem. 147.867. Now, you want to just a moment, let me do another calculation.
It's 47.874%.
We are getting a different figure, 47.867. I don't know whether that is.
You can clearly see that.
Please, my Lord, give me just one moment to give me a minute to cross-check something.
So it's 47.867%. That's all?
Yes.
So you can see that if you add the whole of Petition South registered voter population to the petitioner's total valid votes and calculated the percentage, you get 47.867 for the petitioner.
If the figures are correct, yes. But the problem is with the changing figures.
We'll come to
At
that.
every
Don't worry.
point, new figures emerge. So you don't know which one you are using.
Don't create problems for your heart. We'll get there. You see? So, now, if you go to the 9th December declaration,
Yeah.
and you add the whole voter population of Petition South to the total number of valid votes cast, what total you have?
If you add the whole of Petition
South,
voter population,
yes,
to the declared total number of the valid vote cast as per the Electoral Commission's declaration,
yes,
you get 49.
I've already answered that question.
Okay, you get 49%.
Now, let's proceed to your summary sheet, the exhibit E. Before then. Now, subsequent to all these things, the results of Petition South were declared. Is that not so?
And yes, my lord.
And the total number of valid votes cast to person oneself was known.
Yes, my lord.
And that number is 99,436. Also, you can check it from your exhibit, which you have attached. Your exhibit. Attached to your exhibit C. That's the very first exhibit. Sorry. It's attached to your exhibit C, the first presidential election result summary sheet of the constituency of Petition South.
Okay.
So look at your exhibit C, and the first document after that, you see it. Yeah. So you see that it's the same. I'm talking about the total number of valid votes cast.
And it is 97,227?
No, my lord, if you do the actual calculation, you get 99,000 votes. No, yes. My lord, I'm saying that the 99,436 is the actual sum of the valid votes here.
So you are saying that the figures on the exhibit are wrong?
The totals of the figures are wrong, but the specific figures that each candidate obtained is correct. If you do the total, you find out that the total valid votes is...
Then you have to go through that exercise before you are doing what you are doing.
Very well. Now, can you can't choose this. Confronting. So, can you do the addition? 46,379. Document are we referring to? Exhibit C. Yes. I don't see that. The things with for Petition. Okay. Yeah, can we go? Well, the next one is 52,034. The first one for the petitioner. Yeah. And then for Christian. So the first one. Yes. For the second respondent,
Yeah.
He obtained 46,379. The petitioner obtained, let's add, so petitioner obtained 52,034. Christian Andrews obtained 720. Yeah. Before Grace Street, 46. Ekua Donko, 24. Henry Herbert Lati, 16. Hassan Ayaga, 54. Kofi Percival Anthony, 24. David Apasera, 45. Bride Jogonuku, Bridget Jogonuku, 19. Nana Kunedu Ajana Rollins, 29. And Alfred Ami Asiedu Walker, 46.
My Lord, the total is 99,436.
Correct. So, now, if you add the 46,379,
Well, my Lord, on the face of the whole sheet, the valid votes cast was 97,227.
so does that make the actual valid vote you just got wrong?
No,
Does that make it wrong?
I thought that we're dealing with figures
We are dealing
that have been signed to by agents. If we are correcting the figures, then that is the invitation we give for all of us to sit down and correct the figures. But if
you see, we are currently in court, so it is for the court looking at the figures to make a determination of the correct figure. And I'm saying that when you do the addition of the actual figures obtained, you get 99,436. Do you dispute that?
I don't dispute that.
Go on.
I don't dispute that.
No.
But the total indicated is different. Yes, my lady.
When he's giving an explanation, he should be allowed to complete the explanation.
When the explanation has nothing to do with the matter. Very well. Now, so, if you add the total valid votes from Petition South to
Please mention the figure that you are referring to.
okay.
Because as the witness is pointing out to you, on the same form, there is another figure as a different figure as the total valid votes cast. Refer to the figure that you are.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm saying that if you add the total valid votes of 99436, which you have confirmed, to will you allow me to ask my question? If you add this figure to the actual total valid votes announced on 9 December, that is 30,121,111, what total do you get?
My Lord, I never heard 13,119 has been announced as you claim.
You see, Mr. Ketia, we have gone through the calculation of the actual figures with you, and we arrived at 30,121,111.
Yes, my Lord, my program is with the announced.
Please, if you add the 99,436 to that figure, that is the total value.
My Lord, if I may hear the figure so I can go ahead for you.
99,436. 99,436.
436, yes. Plus
13,121,111.
13,121,111.
What do you get?
We have 13,220,547.
What? 13 what?
13,220,547. Which is also a new figure.
Yes, my Lord.
But on that exhibit, the total valid ballots is 97,227. But the total votes cast is 99,437. So which one are you? 436.
Lord,
And the rejected ballots, 2,209.
yes, my Lord, this is obviously a clerical error, because if one was to add the actual figures, you will get as the total valid votes cast in Techimansa, the figure 99,436. And the witness has just confirmed that by the calculation, that the actual valid votes cast.
That's based on an assumption. Clearly, it is based on an assumption. The assumption as to which of the figures are correct.
Well, my Lord, these are the figures that we have. There are no other figures that they have demonstrated. These are the official figures.
Yeah.
Yes. But, my Lord, I'm responding to your Lordship's question that these are the official figures. And when you add the votes obtained by each candidate in 30 months, my Lord, you get a figure of 99,436. So what is down below is clerical errors in doing simple arithmetic.
So if you can remind us, what's the question? If you can remind the witness.
The question is, if you add the 99,436 to the 13,121,111, what is the total?
When I had the two figures you quoted, I had 13,218,896.
Yes, that is correct. Now, so if you add the 46,379 that the first respondent obtained, the second respondent obtained in 30 months out, to the figure announced, declared for the second respondent at the press conference of 9 December, which is 6,730,413. 6,730,413.
6,740,000.
730, not 40, 730,000.
6,730,000.
413.
413.
And you add 46,379. What do you get?
46,379. About 6,776,792.
So, can you tell the court what that is as the percentage of the 13,218,896 that you mentioned a moment ago?
Come again,
13,218,896.
Yes.
51.267. 51.266. Okay. So you can see that if you were to add the actual votes that the second respondent obtained in 30 months out to his total votes as of 9 December, second respondent will still have crossed the 50 plus percent threshold.
And what I wouldn't know, because the figures that we are contesting here, you have the same agents signing on to tallies allocated to presidential candidates and then signing on to totals. My Lord, with respect, you are calling it clerical error. I don't know whether the error was in the totals or the error was in the tallies allocated to the various candidates.
Now you see, you do a tally based on the primary figures. Is that not so? You don't do a total first and then from the air, and then you come and fit in the specific figures. Your totals are based on the primary figures. Is that correct?
That's correct. But so if the total figures are wrong, the totals will be wrong.
Hold on. So the totals here are the ones we are dealing with, and they come up to 99,436, as you have
The totals,
calculated.
yeah.
Yes.
I know the totals on the various tallies, when you put together, is 99,436.
Yes.
But I cannot test to the validity of the various figures.
That's the problem.
And then the totals, because both the totals and the tallies have been signed onto by the first respondent's representative and the representatives of political parties.
But I'm saying that from these totals, second respondent crossed the 50 plus threshold.
Well, from the totals we see here. Yes.
And the petitioner was below that threshold. The petitioner obtained 47. Petitioner obtained 47.396%.
From the figures we see here.
Yes, yes, that's true. Now, yes, he said, yes, of the figures we see here. That's what he said. Now, again, if you go to 10th December, that is, when you look at your exhibit B, now, you notice that if you add the 99,436 to the total of 13,119,460, what do you get? What do you think?
The figures again here.
You add the 99,436
436
to the total valid votes cast as announced or in the press release of 30,119,460. What figure do you get?
We have 13,218,896.
Very good. Now, can you tell the court now, and if you add the total number of valid votes obtained by the second respondent, that is 46,379 in 30 months South, to the total valid votes obtained on the press release, that is 6,730,587. What figure do you get? 6,700,000.
We are talking about total valid votes.
Yes.
We haven't agreed on which are the total valid votes, so I would prefer you mention the numbers so that I add them for you.
Okay. If you add the 99,000,
99,000.
If you add 99,436 to the total number of valid votes of 13,119,460, as in the press release. What do you get? Press release of 10th December.
We have 13,218,896.
So now if you add the total number of valid votes obtained by first respondent of second respondent of 6,730,587 to the total number of valid votes he obtained in Petition South, which is 46,379. What do you get?
My Lord, as I said, let me mention the figures and let me add for you the total valid votes. The business is still in contention. So let me have the figures.
So the figure is on Exhibit B. The second respondent obtained 6,730,587. That's your Exhibit B.
87. Plus
46,379.
46,379. My Lord, it gives a total of 6,776,966.
Now, what is this figure you just mentioned as a percentage of the...
Are you not taking it back? Okay,
my lords, what I did originally was to add the total votes for Petition South, all of it, to the petitioner. What I'm doing now is the actuals. That's what I'm doing now. Now, so what is the percentage of the 13 million of the 6,776?
13 million?
6, yes.
I have the 6 million figure, but I want to hear the 30 million.
The 30,218,896.
$51.267%.
And when you add the 52,034 to the total valid votes of the petitioner, as in your Exhibit B, which is 6,213,182.
6,213,182. 182. Plus
52,034.
50,034.
Yes. What is that figure?
6,264,216.
And what is the percentage of that figure? What is that figure as a percentage of 30,218,896?
13,218,896. 47.388.
No, it's 47.396. Let's
go by your figures again.
So.
Oh. Very well, my lord.
Yeah. So, my question. No,
you say we should do it again.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, add 52,000. And I said it was not. I said it was. No. Percentage, yes. Okay. So, what is the percentage of the figure you obtain of 13,218,896? The figure you obtain as a percentage of 13,218,896. Yes. The figure you mentioned. That's why I wanted to do the addition again.
I'm really worried about not getting the records. So, I said, the last thing you said, you didn't speak into your microphone.
So, second petition, the petitioner obtained 6,213,182 in the press release of December 10. So, when you add to that figure 52,034, that is the total. 52,034 plus
6 2 1 3 1 8 6 2 6 5 2 1 6 1 47.396.
Alright. So, here again, we add the actual votes obtained by the two candidates to their total votes as published in the press release. Second respondent crosses the 50 class threshold.
We haven't agreed on the actual votes,
but I'm saying that in terms on the face of the documents, second respondent crosses that threshold.
on the face of this press release. Yes.
And on the face of the document, the petitioner obtains a meager 47.388 1396.
My Lord, the figure on the face of this document, 47.396, I can't tell whether it is legal or not.
I'm happy that your concern is only that it is not legal. Now let's look at the summary sheet of the 275 polling stations that you've attached as Exhibit E to your witness statement. Constituencies, the 275 constituencies. Yeah. What's that one? What's that? Now, you notice that at the tail end of that exhibit, you find the summation of the total figures of votes that each candidate obtained. And you also indicate what from your calculation each candidate obtained. On the side, that there's a difference of 5, 6, 8. Yeah.
Yes, my Lord.
That's all. Now, so let's look at the total valid votes obtained by the second respondent on that spreadsheet or summary sheet. It is 6,776,065.
My Lord, 66. I see 66 here.
66, sorry. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the total number of valid votes obtained by the petitioner is 6,265,276.
Yes.
Correct. And
6,265,276, yes.
Yes. And from the EC's calculation, based on the EC's total valid votes of 30,218,600. My lords, that is the NDC. The last one is the NDC's votes. The EC's calculation of total valid votes is the column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from the right. That is the EC's calculation. Yes, total valid votes, yes. And the number, the figure there, my lords, is 13,218,633.
Yes.
Yes. Now, you'll find that from the EC's calculation, 6,776,000 and 66 yields a percentage of 51.261, right?
I will declare it up.
Excuse me.
I didn't understand the question.
I'm saying that if you look, it's your exhibit. Yeah. And I'm saying that from that exhibit, the total valid votes cast overall, according to the EC, is 13,280,633. That's the document. That's what you have.
13,218,633.
Yes.
Yes, and this is different from what was announced and what was corrected and what was subsequently corrected.
Please, hold on. So, I'm saying that 6,776,000 and 66, which is the total valid vote obtained by the second respondent, as a percentage of the overall total valid votes of 218,633, sorry, is 51.26%.
That's correct.
Yes. Now, you claim you did your own calculations of those figures. And by your own calculations, you claim that the second respondent obtained a percentage of 51.263 of the total valid vote cast. That's your calculation. You see it at the last column, at the bottom, the very last column.
Yes.
So
51.264.
6263.
263,759.
Okay. So I'm putting it to you that whether it is the EC's calculation or your calculation, definitely second respondent crossed the threshold.
If we are going by the data supplied by EC.
Yes.
But the data is internally inconsistent.
Now, let's now come to your exhibit. Your exhibit C was the cancer.
He was
Struck out.
struck out, yes. So,
Yes. Now let's come to your exhibit. Your exhibit D. Now, your exhibit D is your famous letter of complaint to the chairperson of first respondent. Where you claim that the results which were collated and signed by all the parties were not the ones transmitted from the region to the Electoral Commission's offices in Accra. And your second allegation was that Ashanti... No, my lord, I'm talking about the letter, Exhibit D.
Was the letter addressed to you? Was it addressed to the second respondent?
Yes.
This letter?
It was addressed to the first respondent.
You go on.
Now, you said two complaints, complaint A and complaint B. Complaint A is that in the Eastern region, the results in the presidential elections which were collated and signed by all the parties were not the ones that were transmitted from the region to the EC's offices in Accra. And the second point, B, relates to Ashanti region. Say Ashanti region provides fundamental problems that require investigation. We have found out that almost across the board, the aggregates on the summary sheet do not reflect the individual results on the pink sheets. Further, the results collated and declared for the region do not reflect the aggregate results on the pink sheets in our custody. Now, it is a fact that you wrote this letter on 9th December, and I believe 2020. Is that not so?
Yes, 9th December 2020.
And I understand from your position that you wrote this letter before the declaration was made.
Yes, my lord.
Now, your complaints about Eastern region have already been disposed of by the Council for First Respondents, so I'll not go there.
My lord,
Yes.
my complaint about Eastern region still stands.
Oh, well, okay, that's fine. Now, if you go to your complaints about Ashanti region, which you had made before you filed your petition, you notice that in your petition, you say absolutely nothing about this alleged complaint. Absolutely nothing in the petitioner's petition. Do you agree?
You are more careful.
You are doing the same thing. It's here. Huh? Do you agree?
My lord, we are referring to those complaints under the cooked figures which have been
Please,
out.
you don't listen to my question carefully. I'm saying these allegations you make about problems in Ashanti region, when you filed your petition after this letter, when the petitioner filed this petition, the petitioner said absolutely nothing about these alleged problems in Ashanti region. You admit that?
My lord, we referred to cooked figures, and it was...
No, I'm talking about...
We didn't mention this specifically, but we referred to cooked figures, and that was...
And Mr. Nketia, in your own witness statement, you never mentioned any difficulties you had with Ashanti results. My lord, we attached some sample
constituency figures. Some of them are from Ashanti. And we indicated that they were not correct. So, but they were put into the result that was declared. So we selected some sample constituencies, which include constituencies from Ashanti region. That was to prove our case that there was a mismatch of figures in Ashanti region.
Now, so you will see that whatever complaints you made about Ashanti region were so minor and insignificant that they did not affect in any way, in any material way, the results as announced by the first respondent, whether in the declaration itself or in the press release, or when you added the actual votes obtained in Techiman South, or when you took
Ashanti region to Techiman South.
We've warned you, we don't want double-barrel questions. The questions are overloaded.
So I'm saying that these complaints that you make, assuming them to be valid, they had absolutely no consequence for who crossed the 50% threshold in the declaration of 9 December.
My Lord, I disagree.
So we'll come to your disagreement. I'm furthermore putting it to you that in the similar fashion, they had absolutely no material effect on the winner as published in the press release of 10 December.
My Lord, I disagree.
No, they didn't have any effect if you took the actual vote obtained in Techiman South.
My Lord, I disagree.
It did not have any effect if you added all the total voter population to the second respondent, to the petitioner. Second respondent will still have crossed the... Yes, you added it to the votes of the petitioner. Petitioner South. If you added that to the votes obtained by the petitioner, it still would not have made any difference as to who crossed the 50+ percent threshold.
My Lord, I disagree, because if you are adding one correct figure to a wrong figure, you cannot end up getting a right answer.
Now, let us look at your exhibit F. Your exhibit F. In your exhibit F, you claim that there has been padding in the total sum of 4,693. Not so.
No, that is not our claim. Our claim is that there has been voter pardon, and we have samples to show that there was voter pardon, and that was what we demonstrated. So we have in no way indicated.
Please respond to the question. You can add explanation.
We haven't claimed that 4,700. The figure stated there is the total number of votes that were pardoned.
So I'm saying that in respect of your allegations of pardon, the only document before this court is your Exhibit F. Is that correct?
That's correct, my lord.
And I'm saying that if you go to Exhibit F, you will discover that the total figure that you allege is 4,693. That's what I'm saying.
That is not correct, my lord. We said that is a sample. So the totals in the sample is what you have mentioned.
He is referring you to the exhibit which is before the court. Respond to it.
Well, the exhibit was attached to a witness statement, and the purpose of the witness statement was clearly stated. The purpose of the exhibit was clearly stated in the witness statement.
Now,
the figure is different.
you see, the figure that you have here, simple question, is 4,693.
Yes.
Yes. And you will notice, so when you attach this figure, did you do it with the consent of the petitioner?
My lord, I was to testify about matters that were in my personal knowledge.
But you are supposed, you said here that you are come to support the case of the petitioner. Is that not so?
That is so.
So my question is the case of the petitioner that 4,693 votes were pardoned? Is that what the petitioner said in his petition?
The petitioner said there was a sample.
No. Please answer my question.
Please, let him answer the question. You see, let him answer the question. If the answers appear not to satisfy the court will certainly raise issues. So you let him answer. Respectfully, the question was, it is a case of the petitioner that so and so. And he started an answer. But, so you should be allowed to answer.
You see, your petitioner mentioned a specific figure in his petition. Is that not so? He said that the vote pardon.
My lord, the figure mentioned by the petitioner as vote pardon is a sample of the vote pardon, that is to demonstrate that there was indeed widespread vote pardon.
What was that figure?
Well, if I can refresh my memory. Petitioner. Exhibit F. Exhibit F. I see 5,662.
So when you published or you stated in your witness statement a lesser figure, was it with the consent of the petitioner?
Yes, my Lord, because each of the two figures are mere samples, just to demonstrate the fact. That is not supposed to be any absolute figure. So some samples could be selected, and under time pressure, if you look at the petition and my witness statement, where we're talking about the samples of constituencies also, the petition mentioned 31 or so constituencies, but we ended up bringing 26, the samples of 26 constituencies because of the time pressure that we needed to submit our lesson. But since they were all samples, it didn't matter to us very much.
No. Mr. Asieji. You see? Now, if you were to claim that there was vote party in favor of the second respondent, and the figure that you have supplied is 4,600 plus 93. Now, you see that the petitioner himself attached documents claiming that the vote adding was in the figure of over 5,600. Yes, in Exhibit F, 5,600 and 5,662. That's what the petitioner himself has said. Do you agree? Now, I'm putting it to you that the reason why you have revised that figure from the 32 constituencies to now 26 is that you've realized now that those other constituencies, the figures were in your favor. The so-called vote party was in your favor. So when you were filing your witness statement, you took them out.
I disagree, my Lord.
Now, let us still stick to your exhibit. You'll see that your exhibit F
F.
has a pen drive copy. Not so.
I don't see it attached here. I don't see it on my file. Yes, my lord. Absolutely.
Now, you see that in that pen drive copy, which we'll ask the court to play, you see that there are columns where you indicate padding for NDC. That is not shown on the hard paper, but on the pen drive, that gives a fuller picture. There are columns where you indicate that padding for NDC. There are other columns you indicate that padding for NDC and NPP, and other columns that you indicate padding for NPP. Is that correct?
My lord, that will go to the heart of the credibility of the figures as
I'm asking whether that is correct.
Respondent. The question has been.
I'm saying that the pen drive information is different from the hard copy you have attached. Is that correct?
The pen drive attached to the petition.
Yes. Exhibit F, the pen drive of your witness statement, from which you create the hard copy, Exhibit F. You notice that what is in the pen drive is not fully what you have as Exhibit F. The hard copy. The hard copy and the pen drive.
The hard copy of Exhibit F.
Yes.
And the pen drive.
Yes.
My lord, I have not discovered any such discrepancy.
But Mr. Nketia, have you looked at the pen drive? Yes, you.
I looked at the hard copy.
No. Have you looked at the pen drive? Don't answer questions that you are not asked.
No, I haven't looked at the pen drive.
You haven't looked at the pen drive?
No.
Good. Now, my lords, if it is possible for us, yes, to play it, to show it.
be expanded? Can it be expanded? Mr. Kutambo, the document has been opened.
Very well. So, you see that if you go to Asante Akim North, that is the 1, 2, 3, 4. Entry the Asante Akim North. You see by it in brackets. Target both. Asante Akim North as the fourth, the third, or is it fourth? Yes. You see that there's brackets, target both. He doesn't know how to do it. You can't go there. You can't go there. Yes, my lord.
You help us. When we look at it, we couldn't find it.
My lord, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
There's nothing.
You see, Mr. Technician, I believe the folder is padded. Have you opened the folder? Yes, you opened it. So I'm putting it to you. I'm putting it to you that in respect of Asante Akim North, your own document admits that it's padded on both sides. I raised this question.
Well, I can't see what he wants us to read. Where it is indicated that it's padded for both sides and all that.
Yes, my lord.
The constituency. No.
My lords, is it possible that we can get a technical person to assist the technician? Because he needs to open the folder properly, and obviously he's not able to do so. 26. Because this is their exhibit, my lords. It's not ours, it's theirs. And we are saying that when we opened it, we noticed these observations.
But those observations are not mentioned here. Those observations that you saw are not here, are not appearing here. Is that what you are saying?
Yes. Yes, because they have not opened the folder correctly. That's the point we are making.
Yeah. Is there any problem?
My lord, that folder is named 26 constituencies. The folder that he has to open.
Look, Mr. Pansa, the council is giving you direction. He said it's called something.
26 constituencies. My lord.
Mr. Kutampa, which file should he open within the folder called 26 constituencies? He says there's a folder named 26 constituencies. Within it are several files. Which file do you want him to open?
Open the 26 constituencies. Yes.
And then all the files in there will just reflect as files.
We believe so.
That's what he wants.
Yes, your lordships, in this particular folder with the subtitle padded, if you open it, there are about 26 constituencies with names in there. For example, the first one at the top, Abekuma West, we've written padded beside it. If you Ifijai Kwabere South, padded. Asante Akim North, padded both. And when you are Bioja North, padded. Ayawaso East, padded. Ayawaso North, both NDC and MPP, padded. Cape Coast North, padded. Ejisu, padded. Bomwa West, padded. Bushebu, padded. Keta, padded. Ketu North, padded. Oliklote, padded. Nyom, padded. Nadoli, Kwakaleo, padded. Nandom, padded. North Dine, both NDC and MPP, padded. Okaipe North, padded. Okaipe South, padded. Sabelugu, padded. Sabelugu again. Sangerigu, padded.
Anyani East, padded. 10, padded. Tamale North, padded. Time.
Now you are expanding it.
Then Tema East, both NDC and MPP padded. And finally, Upper Mana Probo, padded for NDC.
Mr. Kusambo, the day is fast spent. Can you ask your questions now that it's open?
Yeah. You see, Mr. Nketia,
Yes, my Lord.
on the pen drive that you've attached as Exhibit F, there are certain consequences that you simply say padded, and there you mean padded in favor of MPP. But there are some constituencies where you say both padded, you mean padded for both NDC and MPP. So,
My Lord, as I indicated, this is my first time of seeing.
I'm not seeing it. Council.
Yes.
But it is your exhibit. Excuse me. So I'm putting it to you that in your exhibit you have these markings. Padded, both padded for NDC and MPP. I'm putting it to you.
Well, you have seen it, and though I am unable to admit or deny, because I honestly told you that the electronic copy, haven't seen it, and that is the reason why it was displayed. And I don't see, from where I sit, I don't see padded for NDC or padded for MPP on the screen.
Now, you see, if you take, I'm putting it to you that these so-called padding and non-padding or both padding are different consequences. You agree?
Well, let me say so, my Lord.
Now, I'm putting it to you that it could not have been a grand plan of the EC to pad for both NDC and MPP.
I disagree, my Lord.
It is a pad for both.
Look, my Lord, if I may elaborate further.
No, I'm asking, you are saying you'll be padding for both.
My Lord, if 10,000 votes are added to one tally, or the tally of one person, and 200 are added to the tally of another candidate, it will create the false impression that the two candidates' tallies have been padded. But the impact is completely different. So if we talk about padding in favor of a candidate, that is precisely what could happen. And so the fact that on the face of the numbers, it could happen that in one party stronghold, if there is a grand plan to pad for his opponent, he could artificially add some votes to the candidate in the stronghold and add more votes to the opponent, and it will create the desired impact that they intend to achieve. So padding cannot be established merely by comparison of those total figures at the end. If in Ashanti region, NPP leads by say 1 million votes, and you add 500,000 votes to NDC's tally, NDC's NPP will still be in the lead. But then you have reduced the impact of that lead by adding votes. So once you see that the figures are not reconciling, then we go back to the table and then look at what is wrong together.
You see, Mr. Petition, the figures that are played are only 4,693. According to your own...
Ask this question. Sometimes
I'm going to follow up. That's why I'm making that. Now, I'm putting it to you that if you were to deduct the 4,693 alleged added votes from the second respondent's votes as declared on 9th December, that is 6,730,430. If you were to deduct the 4,693 from that sum, you get 6,725,720. I'm putting it to you.
My Lord, that is so, but that arithmetic is meaningless.
Hold on. And if you use 6,000, you calculate 6,725,720 as a percentage of 13,121,111, you get a percentage of 51.259. I'm putting it to you. Excuse me.
My Lord, I want to take the question again.
I say, if you deduct your alleged padding from the total number of valid votes that the second respondent obtained by the declaration of 9th December, you get a sum of 6,725,720.
My Lord, arithmetically, correct is meaningless because we are talking about samples.
answer the question.
My Lord, I have answered that.
Yes.
That is correct, but it doesn't now. It is meaningless.
Now, what is 6,725,720 as a percentage of 13,121,111, which was the number declared for second respondent on 9th December. That is the percentage.
My Lord, I'd like to hear the figures again and do the calculation and give you the answer.
So, the original figure is 6,730,413.
Please, slowly.
6,730,413.
413.
Subtract from that the 4,693. What do you get?
Minus 4, 6, 9, 3. You get 6,725,720.
Yes. Now, what is that figure as a percentage of 13,121,111?
13,121,111. 51.259.
So you see, Mr. Nketia, that even if you were to deduct your alleged added vote from the vote of the second respondent, it still crosses the 50 plus threshold.
I disagree.
Well, that's your maths. Now, again,
Because samples cannot be subtracted from another population figure.
now, on 10th December, in the press release, the total valid votes obtained by the 12 candidates is 13,119,460. That's correct, isn't it?
And now let me go back to my attachments.
Yes. So, now, if you subtract 4,693 from the total votes obtained by second respondent, that is on 10th December, which is 6,730,587. 6,730,587. If you subtract that from 13,140,000, what do you get first? You get 6,725,894. That's the figure you get when you do the subtraction.
I thought you were mentioning the figures for me to do the calculation.
So do the calculation.
Please, what are the figures?
6,730,587.
Yes.
You subtract from that 4,693. What do you get?
4,693. 93. You get 6,725,894.
Yes. Now, that is 6,725,894 as a percentage of 13,119,460.
119.
13,119,460.
%51.267%.
Okay. Now, so there again, second respondent crosses the critical threshold.
I can't tell my job.
Now, if you've already done this, but this is simply to aid you. If you add the total of Petition South voter population to the valid votes of 13,119,468, that is, if you add 128,028
Not slowly, because you are asking me to add. The way you are.
128,000.
Can we start, sir?
I thought you had left taking us out long ago. And you are taking us back.
Yes, my Lord, you see, there are different stages. I'm demonstrating that even when you withdraw, to take out, yes, this alleged thing. Yes.
Oh, but did you not cover that?
Very well.
I thought so.
So, I'm putting it to you that when you withdraw or subtract the 4,693 from the total valid votes obtained by second respondent, whether as announced in the declaration of 9th December or in the press release of 10th December, or when you add the two, in all these occasions, the second respondent still obtains over 50% plus.
Now, here again, we are attempting to take mangoes from apples.
Now, the critical question here now is that however and whatever the number of total votes, valid votes you take, and the number of valid votes oh, very well. I'm happy your lordships get it. Now,
We don't follow the proceedings. Then why are we here?
now, you will see from the petitioner's petition that that ground A of the petition suggests or states that the declaration on 9 December violated Article 63(3) of the Constitution and is therefore null and void. Is that not so?
Yes, my Lord.
Now, we all know that Article 63(3) requires a person to have more than 50% of the total valid votes cast to be declared president. Is that not so?
Yes, my Lord. I've been advised my lawyers that that's true.
And I'm saying that from all the evidence before this honorable court, second respondent, in whatever situation, crossed that threshold. That's the evidence before this court.
My Lord, I disagree.
Have you produced any evidence to the contrary?
My Lord, I indicated that we are here with the figures as declared by the first respondent, and we are questioning the internal consistencies of the figures.
You have not answered my question. I'm saying, have you produced any contrary evidence of the total number of valid votes that the second respondent obtained, showing that he obtained votes below the 50%? Have you? My Lord, because those figures are not available.
Well, are not available from the declaration by the first respondent. And we are not here to bring figures here because we don't have a constitutional duty to declare results of elections.
Very well. So you can come to the court to challenge the validity of the results of the presidential election without any evidence of what the actual results were.
My Lord, if I know that 2 plus 2 is 4, and I'm presented with results that indicate that 2 plus 2 is 6,
Excuse me. Please answer the question. At times you try to be a bit sarcastic. That is not done in the courtroom.
Yeah.
Yes. Mangoes, manus, whatever. You don't do this in under examination.
The parliament affairs will learn. And so the parliament affairs are trying to catch up with what procedures.
You are a teacher, a banker, a politician, one of the largest political farmers,
block maker, and a diffuser of advocacy.
So I'm saying that you are telling this court that you can come before it claiming that the second respondent did not cross the 50% plus threshold without producing any evidence to show that. That's what you are saying. Because that's your ground A.
We have supplied evidence from the first respondent who is supposed to make those declarations, and we brought them here to challenge the validity of those declarations.
So that's how you arrive at the fact that second respondent did not cross the threshold.
Because the data obtained
No. Is that how you arrive at the position that the second respondent did not cross the threshold as required by the Constitution?
My Lord, the figures are what we base our submissions on. Because the first respondent who is supposed to declare have put figures there. We look at the figures, and the conclusion is that the second respondent did not cross the threshold.
Because you use the total vote cast. Now, again, your ground B is founded on an alleged violation of Article 2.3 and Article 296 of the Constitution. Now, I put it to you that you have not produced any substantial evidence that these alleged violations, even if true, affected the actual vote obtained by the candidates. Even assuming that there were violations of the petitioner's right to be heard fairly and so on, you have led no evidence to show that those violations had an effect on the actual vote that second respondent obtained and the actual vote that the petitioner obtained.
I disagree.
Now,
just to be clear, you refer to a second relief. What I'm seeing in our second relief is not quite the same as what I...
Well,
and you see
Where is this?
that your ground C and D are simply a rehash of your ground B. So, Mr. Nketia, I'm putting it to you that your petition, your petitioner petition, shows no reasonable course of action. Please. And I'm putting it to you further that you are not, the petitioner is not entitled to any of the reliefs that he seeks. And you have no case worthy of hearing before this court. My Lord, I'm done.
Yes, please, there will be a question from the bench.
I want to be very clear on some issues. General, I know that when you purchase a pen drive, it is empty. And the data on any pen drive is generated by someone. So the pen drive that you attach to the hard copy and exhibited as Exhibit F, who generated or placed the data on it? But when you were asked, you said you don't know what was on it. Who generated the data on the pen drive? My Lord, as I said, honestly, I hadn't seen the pen drive and its contents till today. And I was relying on the hard copies. But the evidence is gathered by our Elections Directorate and the Legal Directorate. So they gave it to you and you exhibited it as part of your evidence. No. I did not exhibit that document.
As part of the petition, he did not exhibit it. He made it quite
Statement.
So he swore on oath that it's for him, and he brought it to us.
He exhibited it. So I want to find out who generated it. So it means your election generated it and gave it to you and you exhibited it without seeing it. I read all the hard copies of the document because of the time pressure. I was discovering this thing today. Okay, so that's why I indicated I haven't seen. Then I want to be very clear on these issues too. Very, very important to me. Now, in all the figures that were mentioned as a valid vote cast and all those things, you were saying if the figures were correct, and that there were inconsistencies in the figures, I want to ask you, now, in your own calculation, what were the total valid votes cast in the presidential elections on 7 December 2020? In your own calculations. My Lord, those calculations are reserved for a meeting for us to reconcile the figures because the first respondent herself keeps changing the figures. And so it says, when you bring your excuse me, just look at here, help the court. You see, when you started giving evidence, you said you had all the representatives across the 275 constituencies. You said you put agents as to use the, yes, and they were to
I mean, collect the figures. You said it. Then he's asking you that from that, what figure did you get? You.
My Lord, I haven't brought that figure to court.
Okay. Then, from your own calculations, what were the valid votes cast in favor of the petitioners? To your knowledge.
My Lord, when we discovered this discrepancy, it was difficult to even know which
So
yes
you don't know, you just answer.
You don't know. I don't have them here.
Okay, then the last one. What figures from your own calculations did the second respondent get as the total valid votes cast in his favor?
My Lord, I don't have those figures here.
Thank you. That's what.
Mr. Asiedun Petition, you have referred on a number of occasions to data being internally inconsistent. Can you explain what you mean by that? The data on the basis of which you have been cross-examined, you have kept saying the data was internally inconsistent.
My lords, there's no ambiguity in that statement. Nothing has been said here that suggests that there's no understanding of that statement. The statement is clear in its terms, so he cannot be asking that question under re-examination.
My Lord, I believe the purpose of re-examination is to clarify matters that came up in the context of the cross-examination. So when the witness keeps saying that data is internally inconsistent, I believe that there is a need to explain.
My Lord, my understanding of data that is internally inconsistent is where figures are given and a total is given which is different from the sum of the figures. As we had on the declaration sheet for Eastern region, for instance. No, my Lord. The answer is that data is given and a total is also given. And when you add the totals, you add the data, raw data, it doesn't agree with the total as given. Then the data is inconsistent. And I'm citing an example of the Eastern region pollution sheet. My Lord, it was said in court here, we tested two different documents. One,
you see, this is just for excuse me. You want to elicit an answer to a very simple question for him to explain inconsistency in data. But going back to Eastern region and flipping through the exhibits, yes, are you looking for fresh evidence? He wanted just a simple answer for you to tell the court what is, yes, that's all.
My meaning is that when there is data,
Thank you.
and there is a claim that the data
Thank you.
to this, and when you actually add, it is different from what the total is claimed, then that data is internally inconsistent.
Statistical, in connection with the cross-examination of counsel for the first respondent, he drew your attention to something from Ayen Swano, and he related that to the calculations that he had asked you to make. Now, how does the Ayen Swano
the member allows object to this?
Well, counsel for first respondent referred to Ayen Swano in connection with the documents that he cross-examined you on.
Yes,
my question simply is, what is the relevance of, can you explain the relevance of Ayen Swano? My love,
This is fresh evidence.
yes.
Thank you, my lord.
Oh, yes.
Or what? Okay.
You didn't tell us your other name. You did not tell us your other name. Your alias, who begins with the rank in the army. You didn't tell us your alias, who begins with the rank in the army.
My alias.
Yes, who begins with the rank in the army. Or you don't want us to take judicial notice of that?
My lord, I thought that is about preface. This question will not.
Because you come from his hometown, that is what.
I'm known as the Lamasito. That's my alias. Very well, my lord, you will request. Thank you very much, your lordship.
The petition is adjourned to tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Yes. For the next witness.
All right.
And now, my dear listeners, before I sign out, I would like to introduce to you Tabia Herbal Mixture, a great and effective herbal medicine for malaria, loss of appetite, and general body pains. Tabia, a fact I can personally attest to.
Asana ubano Tabia Herbal Mixture. Shishomu jomu say when you treat the Arabians. Tabia Herbal Mixture.
Do ya shisha sa egini kato yi mwaji atu se en.
And they call me UJ. When you need a shoulder to cry, run on my pumping, so we try one suicide. Let bygone be bygone. I didn't see what I'm gonna do. We go straight to stardom. I'm gonna take you for that level. Baby, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Energy next level. Baby, oh yeah, yeah. For that level. Baby, oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't quote this level. Excessive drinking can be detrimental to health. Not recommended for persons under 18 years, lactating mothers, pregnant women, and people sensitive to caffeine. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
In Ghana, the environmental speed limit of 30 kilometers per hour should be observed in residential, educational, and commercial areas because human activity is dominant. 50 kilometers per hour is for built-up areas and communities along the highway. 90 kilometers per hour is for the highway. The Accra-Tema motorway has a speed limit of 100 kilometers per hour. Where there are no speed limit signs, the national and environmental speed limits apply. So, if you are driving near a school with no speed limit sign, your speed should be below 30 kilometers per hour, so you can stop your vehicle if you need to. Stop road crashes now. Stay alive.
This road safety education is brought to you by the National Road Safety Authority.
This advertisement will be vetted and approved by the FDA.
Ganabam, if your waist or your body make basa. To wait here for doctor no. Where are they? Ghana pa yanto ameto ha address after konti afan chuobi 20 cities. Nimo se we Ghana pa mo kan sa chuo so we Ghana oh, Charlie, that's what I'm going over there. Hey, Azoto! Hey, what's up? Charlie, how? Charlie, did you go for the test we talked about the other time?
Yeah, man, I do them simple.
Oh, you do them?
Oh, I do them.
Hey, Azoto!
I do them.
Charlie, this is great. Oh, guys. Pardon. This is my friend, Azoto. Another bold, wise person who is just taking the HIV test.
Wow!
That's a wise decision. Azoto, who you remember? You be the man. You there for what?
That's really a respectable decision.
Of course, it's time for testing. It's not big deal getting tested for HIV. The days of stigma are long.
There is life after HIV testing. Be bold. Get tested.
Exposed.
you would notice that counsel on our side spent a lot of time exposing the inconsistencies and sometimes even outright falsehoods that have been put out by the petitioner and the witness who was in the witness box today. So when you juxtapose the earlier claims of we won now to what they are saying in the witness box about they don't know who won, when you juxtapose that to some of the tapes we played about claims of 51% of their side, now to claim that they did not even bring numbers to court. If you juxtapose that between their petition that talks about vote padding of a certain number and now a claim that it's only samples of that number, one of the first things that counsel on our side sought to do today was to expose the inconsistencies and sometimes outright falsehoods that have been peddled by the petitioner and the witness who was in the witness box today. Our counsel also spent a lot of time exposing the bad faith and prejudice with which the petitioner and his team have approached the work of the Electoral Commission and the chair of the Electoral Commission, Ab Initio. And that's why you saw them take time to set out right from her appointment, from registration, etc. And believe on our side that this is just a culmination of the various attempts to undermine an otherwise very good job that has been done. Also exposed through very vigorous cross-examination is a claim that was being made that nobody actually won this election. And that's why you saw the Venerable Akoto Ampao over and over again now raise the numbers and ask the witness to do the computation. And if you fry it, you bake it, you turn it upside down, you cook it, it is still 51% plus for the second respondent and about 47% for the petitioner. And you saw him do the math and admit himself in the witness box when he was under oath. What we also found interesting were the attempts to shield the witness by his counsel to an extent that even materials that they had tendered in, there was an attempt to ensure that he was not questioned on it. Even at re-examination, attempt to adduce fresh evidence. But I think you saw how the court handled it. The very final exposure we saw today, an exposure on the lack of candor. You heard the three questions that the bench asked. But for all that you have said, when you finished your collation, what were your results? When you finished your collation, what were the results that the petitioner got? When you finished your collation, what were the results that the second respondent got? And it was, I believe it will be very surprising to the millions of NDC supporters across the country who were egged on by this same team that they had numbers to prove they had won. Now here in court, when the bench asks those questions, they say that they did not come to court with any of those numbers. They are not still able to put any numbers before the court, despite all that they have said. So for us, in summary, we're of the view that it's been a good day in court. You saw the lack of candor when on the soft copy on the pen drive, they had made notes that they observed what they call padding, both for the MPP and the NDC. Yet they had claimed that there was a deliberate attempt to steal this election for the MPP. And now in their witness statements, they sought to delete those ones out. And then when it was put to our very good friend, the general, he now said he was not responsible for the pen drive, etc. So that exposure of the lack of candor is also one of the things that our counsel sought to do. In conclusion for us today, our view is that if your case is bad, even the most skillful general will be exposed at cross-examination. And that's what we believe has happened today. If you have questions, we'll take them now and then we'll wrap up.
Your side sought to tender in exhibit through the petitioner's witness. They were opposed to it. Why did you want to do that when you not ask the lead of the court first?
Well, so that will be a technical legal matter. The substance of it, however, is that what we wanted to show was still in the video that had been submitted. And so you saw our counsel find an opportunity to now cause the witness to do that calculation and express it as a percentage. And no matter how you do it, it still comes back to that same point. The second respondent, 51% plus, and the petitioner, about 47%. Any other questions? Well, we thank you. We'll do a quick translation in Twi, and we look forward to tomorrow's engagement in court.
Abusafo and assembly tiawa and I can ho a dance song court trans and amufiada and general mosquito ye dey no etina adakam and se wo hwe ensemo a ekoso a na se yapan ho ntuma yi papa sanse ensemo a na video a ye boy eno kan ho bi na amufiada court gibre se na ni abo wo hwe video na ye boy dem ho na wo hwe NDC panifo nyina ka se o ma keka o mo nyema nyina bom pinchiti ekra mo o ma ye nyina no mo ye no eye former president Mahama wetwam eye 50% plus 1 our wini change bia na be declare no as president and the court apa mo hontuma sanse ensemo mo kan nyina no enye ho asem e na o mo de ba court ebiem ade ba ko na hu hia ye pa ne kwan ye fa so a ye di fin egu eye Jane Mensa ho keka ensem bebre wa abonten e de fa ne ho nanso enne ye ba court sanse mu nya ye sabusa o mo se e kamya kwa ye se eye Jane Mensa ana monisa no na no kra wo hwe eye opinion se dun ketia so kan a o se they are not in court to challenge the validity of the election. There's only court say ya about 38,622 polling stations no omo assembly account there be na mum omo say emra e share Jane Mensa so on the adwuma no omo nim say Jane Mensa yes adwuma na so for them they are in court only to challenge the constitutional duty imposed on Jane Mensa and support omo ntuma ebiem omo frebo for case be wrong aggregation of vote any vote pardon o share omo petition mu a omo can say 5,662 eba court kata omo de beto animu ayo peresu rigetia o say 4,693 eno kwa no hwe a entobia sa kopiem o ye hu ne ye ka ye de tipim ha ne de tia kopim ha na na assembly to fa nyina no any opinion justice ya wapo ensemfu a o de pimpim eye opinion su rigetia obusa ne nsem 9 ne ri kan o say wa dance di a wo de aba court no o si unuma de kro na hwan na de saa ensem no gu saa eye pen drive abefo ene pen drive yi eso wantimi anka o si ne nkofo bi na de gu so no kwa wanya ho anhwe ebra ma no ne ade na no afunfun wo ho ne to so mienu a opani justice ya wapobusae o si okay na wa wo ye coalition because mbeka ya eye mfidie so omso makeka o nyina bom mo so bu nkonta no omo de yes omo de openi jo ma ama ko jina so makeka o bibia bom na okay mo bu nkonta no so no say na munya ye say eye total valid vote cast openi esedun ketia say nso a onim ne to so miensa o say okay ene mo so mu dia mo sa ye no ene ye say wo hwe eye petitioner eye omampeni dada Mahama eno so e man say na mo anso independently mu collect ye no mu ya eno so no a bobo wantimi anya ho asamanka sanse omo nyeye ne to so 9 ai bubu o mapre ekra ne say okay and yes second respondent awudina begina court and you also munya nyina so bi say e man say no nya enti na wantimi anko 50% plus 1 eno so ebuso opani so din ketia say form a year na anado danko akufo the second respondent and man say in according to mum coalition onya ya eno so abobo opani so din ketia say eno so onim enti mu anaja ye de areho asresem eno sorry ko e wey adadi pefe say ensem akoso no mu nyina monitua we de mu hu na ekoso etwagu obi anim nyame ya adom a court e de ahye ochina say yebehia yebeda mpanifo ase ene mu amahu ye general secretary o ha say eye the most general na mu ha Jomboedu eye chairman ono star witness ono na ejine mo na na danko akufo ado chairman makumenu ha ene ebiem we hear director of elections onso kan ho data ka chairman kan ho ebeda ya lawyer for ase of akotampa ne wa chese onim de Frank Davis abom homoden lawyer Adodapa lawyer ya opon lawyer Sheila Minkapremo lawyer Victoria Bath lawyer Dr. Ernesto Usudapa lawyer Kwaku Esrefi and lawyer Ochrejekum ena eye omunso omhwe bibia somaye lawyer Kayamu Amuna Kahon, head of research. Nyamisha Omunina, Nyamia Mochna, Yebesan, Eshia, Ebim. Lawyer Nana Juanso, our Hasi, Nyamisha.
Okay, should I start?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much and good afternoon. Let me start by saying that we are extremely satisfied with the testimony given by our General Secretary today. In fact, nothing that he has said undermines our case. Indeed, everything he said points to the fact that we are entitled to the declarations that we are seeking. But several interesting things stood out today. Let me start with the video. The video that they sought to show to try and dent the credibility of the General Secretary didn't happen as they thought it would. In the end, his credibility rather soared. If you watch the video, and I'm sure you all watched it, it is clear from the video that he never said at any point in time that the petitioner had won the elections. In fact, what he did were projections, and rightly so. He stated that based on the 141 parliamentary seats that we had won, the projection was that we would win the presidential slot as well. Those were projections he made. And so they were unable to show from the video that the general said what it is they were trying to prove. So of course they flopped in that regard. The other thing that came out clearly was that there were ever-changing figures from the general's testimony. Now, from their own cross-examination, they describe these ever-changing figures as manifestly erroneous. We had the 9th December figures of 13,434,574, 10th December 13,119,460. Then in their paragraph 24 of their answer, that's the first respondent's answer, she talks about 13,121,111. Yet again, today, there were corrections made. And we saw that from the cross-examination on Techiman South. On the face of that, their own exhibit, it showed 97,227. But when they did the tally, or the collation, it was 99,436. So when we make the point that based on their own declarations, that's the EC's own declarations, there are errors, we are right. And it has been proven by the cross-examination that they conducted that we do not know what the figures are. Based on her own declaration, nobody got more than 50%. And the declaration I'm talking about is the 9th of December declaration. Also important is the issue of padding. They cross-examined the general on the issue of padding. And you can sense from the cross-examination that they admit that there was padding. What they tried to portray was that on a pen drive, there was an indication that there was also padding in favor of the NDC. Now, if they admit that there was padding, then obviously we are dealing with a very flawed election. That is the point, and they admit it. It's a clear admission of a flawed election. And he also made the point that what we attached in terms of padding were only samples. Only samples. So you can't take a sample and deduct it from a whole or an absolute number and get any results, because that sample is simply what it is, a sample. In the end, there were also questions from the bench about our own figures. But I think we need to make it clear, and it's been made clear over and over again. We are here challenging the EC on its own figures. Its own figures. What are those figures? There's the 9th of December, there's the 10th of December so-called correction, and there's also the figure in their paragraph 24. And then today we realize that even in some of the constituencies, and they themselves brought out the example, Techima and South, there are errors. So if you ask us, what are our own figures? How are we going to get our own figures based on all these flawed sheets and different figures? And so we stand by what we are saying, that based on her own declaration, nobody got more than 50%. So today we are happy with the cross-examination of the general. We are happy with the results, and we think that our case was made clearly in the court today. So if there are any questions.
Yes. Sisters. Yes, the interest in the alternative figures, as the petitioner would have or should have brought to court, maybe it's not a matter of interest to only the bench. A lot of us journalists followed the election keenly, and we know that on all sides, the NPP, the NDC, the CPP, each political party had, call it a coalition center or a tabulation center, tally, whatever the name was. But each political party was able to, following the reports from their representatives at the polling stations, tabulate the figures, and at the end was able to tell whether or not they were leading, they were behind, whatever the case may have been. Is it the case that based on the tabulation that the NDC did of the election results, it is not possible for the petitioner to tell us some figures which probably directly contradict the figures that the EC chairperson announced on the 9th of December?
I mean, that's a good question, but having regard to the case we have even brought to the court, I don't even think it's necessary. They themselves have different contradicting figures. Why do you need another one from us? They are different contradicting figures. And that is the point we are making, that the EC themselves, what are the figures?
Yeah, any other, Akable? On the point about the alleged vote padding, I just wanted to find out, because we had general saying sample. I mean, what is the full range of this vote padding that the petitioner's team detected? And if indeed you detected that full range, should you rather be making the case that those votes be annulled? And the other one relates to General's point about the first time he's seen the content of a pen drive. If you could clarify that point for us.
Okay, I think let me start with the issue of the pen drive. The information on the pen drive was printed for the general. It was printed for him, so he saw the hard copy. He didn't actually see the pen drive, you know. And from what I could see on the screen, they were actually reading from the names of the folders, which he would not have. He would have the printed document, because of interest to him was the information on in the documents and not the names of the folders. So that is how it is explained away. It's not to say he didn't know what was in the folders, but what they read was based on the names of the folders. I hope that is clear to you. Then the other question was what?
The vote pattern. That's not fundamental.
Because you kept saying sample, and the sample came to 4,000 in terms of general's witness statement and about 5,000 in terms of the petitioner's statement. The full range that you discovered in your analysis, how many votes are we looking at, and why are you not making a request with evidence to have those votes annulled instead of relying on the declaration of December 9?
Well, that is the choice that we made, that we will challenge the declaration of December 9. That is the choice that we made.
We brought samples to show how flawed the election was, but our choice was to challenge the very declaration of December 9th.
Okay, we can do the P now.
Yep. Is that okay?
Okay. Okay. You obviously for you better must be say masanso ajebre say move tie and then about court so notice say the lawyer penny former attorney general honorable Marita Brewer appear upon Wakano. Ade ba ko a lawyer ma the second respondent say obey in his cross-examination of our witness General Mosquito ne say obey Maria Sinya na court na hu say and someone yeto abani ye ono ne NDC mpanyimfo bi e ka ne ho e to dwa e fa about on sunsun so no enye no dia ba court na wasesa na no in conclusion no onya no kwafo na mo amwe video boy no na mutie anu yi a general edema no a bibia say general ankasa de wan kano in any press conference say ya coalition on the basis of your coalition Joma Marine. Nessa mo kan ni nyina say your results I say NDC are parliamentary seats about 141 which he still stands by, and on the basis of that anyhow in the past the trend has been, or can I say John Dramani Mahama will have the comfort he needs in parliament to govern. Now, Osansu Chimu say, simple NDC impenyu for our dwa, your boy, you know what 76 American field to Kono. Eka said, na John Mahama wenya. And ya nuntin yaba court. You decided, say, and found only ye figures are your white chess and yareno. Ye be you easy for Nankasa figures. Now, ya shoe court, and they say, simple ya the figures ne to ncheni you so mwankasa figures in poa. Omampenye Kufuado, the second respondent, did not get more than 50% of the total valid votes cast per the 9th December declaration, which is the only declaration of the 2020 presidential election results. Yehuni say, anu ya General Mosquito de Maomono, it settles this issue. So then how can we know about Kotabeka? Yes, say the figures no crowd to Chenia for one cast of figures now. Omampenye Kufuado more than 50% of the total valid votes cast, and that is a solid case. Number two, and then one may sure say more cross-examination. Now move be more confused. Say then they are to about Ghana. Yeah, what different versions of the results of that election? Yenifi ye mu bi da. Say ya to abewi now on 9th December, they said the Honorable Attorney General Chimu, say total valid votes 13,434,574. On 10th December, no the press release about almost the total valid votes 13,119,460. Weeks after, Ghana for you just a figure not 2 million. Yet the mobile court no has some no. Almost figure no 13,121,111. All based on 274 constituency results. How is it possible? Say about what back you different figures. Do I with your cross examination no grana? I say based on assumption. Okay, you find the results in here. You find the results in here. And the General Mosquito Chimu say about one year to South total valid votes with various candidates. And until the figures cannot be changing. That's why we say the figure be to draw. Now from so and I'm saying a number of soon figure a number of soon everything. And was for all the agents of the presidential candidates near the necessary corrections. One was check now for figures are any basis on valuables cast and mabonting. And if we say Namu or Maka say figures be a slip near the Keka. Say yes slip, say yes slip, no. Yeah, that's why I say, Ochana, I am more than every proceedings. And he said, Dole. The cross-examination of the returning officer of the presidential election, Madam G. Mensano, to Nyabaso. Now, whether say this claim say a mere slip and a mere mistake, can stand the test of law. The also
Honorable former Attorney General can was the issue of pardon. Then they are in the court on the Huadrian. Pardon no as a chair say, Woyura Johnson and Sidum Ketia, Adan Secretary or Yaba Court. Any Ura Mahama petition or Yaba Court. Yet the 26 constituency results are by Chese. Baby or Mampenia Kufuadunya and Mad Area are payment. Yet the bear or ha a cano. In the name Mano, yet the Biaka Cano, and you're gonna phone the two Sabanamano. Easy official in the pen. Said you every be at the Aka and then your friend the pardon. And this is a woman to say, oh, okay, I know the Esa. I was your force, I one in Prad, the children say. Talking about credibility, if the cross-examination of the mosquito is about credibility, so can cry and on can cry. Even if you admit, say, oh, chrono the vote by crack or Mampino Kufaro de Oma, what credibility do you have? Not to talk of close to 5,000 votes. In 2012, same people before the dance about crack by courts. South Region, and one vote to crack at your mama, the Oma Comeka Sisa, in the chrono. Until Papa Chrono, I was with you, sir. And on that chain, no person was say, oh, Jim Mensa. Te said, yeah, we are money be card on my penny for the owner. We are this much on Mahama. We are saying what was here, Shannon. Because this is the first time. This is the first time. Oh, Ghana, Bako Semua. Yatu Aberie, now they want to me say, ye will be amad the wedding first. The wedding first, so see a real Biama, what What does it mean? It means that a battle on software is flawed. Because of the Assyrian. The other Subium. The issue of pen drive of Wansem. Former Attorney General Ashim. A petition with exhibits be brain, Yaka petition. You are saying that you dance a crata, you find the witness statement on Waba court. Answer, you are saying that you had a court, so should let everybody know that this is an honest witness who only speak to matters within his personal knowledge. Sir, exhibit no, ekasa about pardon about why you did the akeka come and pay you for the maho. You the soft copy of good pen drive so, and you the hard copy also auto file so. You know mosquito say hard copy na me here, pen drive na dey maintain here. You free say boni bi anim. In any case, at the crocro mo person come back share no. O maintain am pointing on the screen. We didn't see anything on the screen that says John Muhammad Dini and Awini. So, and also, you're very satisfied with the answer, General Ademai. And again, this issue about Mose, you are many more figures away, more total valid votes here. More Mose John Muhammad, more Mose Mampinu for the that question, you are saying, get ye, Noah, and I am my Attorney General Association. Yeah, can say, Yama court. Say, ye figures are ye collation, ye no, and no man soon ye between. Ye ba court to say 1992 constitutional power penny bia, or only a 2 man penny about where we are, or was to be or bobo. Wabobo ye was answer passes our declaration into law, Abayamara CI 135. Until your father no one sem no any figures no just work I say declaration in the dia. And your Mampenia Kufa doing more than 50%. Yeah, figures no and Mamuho. Now you be the not honorable Attorney General can say the battery and what you can say. Adie, so what makes me our results? I just okay to 275 constituencies and wishes or carbon copy. And a while back a carbon total valid votes. Now there are divisions. And then I back a carbon one who John Mama and your Mampenia Kufa doma. Some wishes you see, and on the number who the court has said. Figures now so no baby you wrong. Techiman South to the Okikabomua amount 99,436 as the total valid votes. And so you say 97,227. It is an and Contania pay figures in Mudia in the. How do you know which one is correct and which one to use? And there are several of such examples. And what General can say, and yet possible. So one can say any accurate collation of your own, no any accurate figures, because election is a fraud. Reason for the Ebeke to win say, Yenya so Adansia, your church of opening General Mosquito wedding Wadakanim.
Yes, Sempa, Yababeto Court, it has not been undermined in any way, and the credibility of our witness has not been undermined in any way. Yes, Regan of Winina, 2020 presidential election, about to Munu Cresse, or China, any Eda, and I die anymore. Yan proceedings, Nibi, because Yamami G. Mensa, only Juma was an Abahe, or bed Sadaka and near Bisan and Sam. They are all kind of cray. Yan who said about one instance why you're dear to Jano. A valid and a valid. Now, you're there and losing my anchors, so because General Mosquito can record to say, Yamako to challenge the validity of the election. Nearby court to challenge Jimensa, Juma, Sewayana, and let us say, Ono Asana Okanontiasia. Because Jimensa said what discharging the constitutional duties as returning officer. The validity of the election can be. So if you are challenging whether G. Mensa as the returning officer has performed her constitutional responsibilities, you are also challenging the validity. By a declaration was in the ECA, and declaration is part of the election. So if we are challenging the constitutionality and the validity of it, it means we are challenging the validity of the election. Thank you.
And so these were the two press conferences addressed by the petitioners, representatives, as well as the lawyers and representatives and spokespersons of the second respondent, President Akufo-Addo, of course, the petitioner in this case being former President John Mahama. And this has been our coverage. We'll wrap up now. And my two colleagues who have been sitting in court, Barbara Kuma and Edward Nyakon, will join me as we wrap up. We have just a few minutes to wrap up now. So what I'd like us to do, Edward and Barbara, if you can come to my left-hand side, is to quickly summarize whatever it is that happened today and look ahead into tomorrow. So let me start with you, Edward. So what exactly, for the viewer out there who is not legally inclined, what happened in court today, very briefly?
I remember we said, what happened today, as they normally put it, was a cross-examination. Essentially, the counsel for the second respondent posed certain questions to the General Secretary of the NDC, who is the first witness, and what he sought to do was to make sure that he impugned on the credibility of the General Secretary of the NDC, who is the first witness of the petitioner. So what he tried to do was to make sure that he cast doubt over what he stated in his witness statement, to prove to the court that whatever he's put in his witness statement is not, in quotes, the truth. So that's what he sought to do. But the rest is in the hands of the judges to come to the conclusion and determine what exactly. And so I believe that we've got into the meat, what I would say, the meaty part of the issue, of the case itself.
And Barbara, so Edward has told us about today, but what is likely to happen in court tomorrow as well?
All things being equal, from tomorrow, I guess the second witness from the petitioner, that's Dr. Pesa White from the University of Ghana, is likely to be called to the witness box to also answer questions that he has stated or put in his witness statement. So basically, that's what's going to happen tomorrow. If what went on today is anything to go by. Yeah.
And at some point in time, but we will also expect to see Madam Jean Mensa, chairperson of the first respondent, in this case the EC, also mounting the box, aren't we?
Yes, we are going to have her too in the box to testify to whatever she is saying or she has been captured to say in her.
I wanted to quickly add something else.
Something that one of the judges put across when Mr. Kutompa was in his feet, and indicated to him that for case management you have to finish in a day, within a day. So that points to the fact that perhaps in the minds of the judges they want the case to run as fast as they want. Yeah, it was pretty short because
Supreme Court usually usually or do not sit on Fridays and on Mondays. So for them to sit on days that are known for them to relax or not to come to work, I think the
speed with which they want this
this case done and then adjudicated. So yeah.
Exactly. So this has been our coverage. Obviously tomorrow we'll be back here. The Chief Justice did announce that tomorrow sitting resumes at 9:30, which means that way before 9:30, at about 9 o'clock, we will be back here and we will start giving you all the information that you need to have ahead of the sitting tomorrow. But of course, we'll also be reminding you of whatever happened today and the days before today and what is it that has led us here. This is what you be if you need to follow the unsensationalized reports concerning election petition 2020. Have a very good afternoon. This has been GBC's coverage, and we are grateful that you made time to stay with us. All right, welcome back. Yes, sir, from my colleagues Abdul Hai, Mumin, Edward Nyako, and Barbara. We're back here into the studios to finally wrap up everything. But of course, we have our guest who's joined us via Zoom. We'll pick one or two comments from him, and then we can wrap up and get ready for that of tomorrow's sitting. So I have Dr. Kwekwajiman Budu, who is a lawyer, he's a law lecturer, and the head of Law Center's Gimpa Faculty of Law. Doc, good evening, and thank you very much for joining us. All right, it's been a long day and a very interesting one for that matter. How best can you summarize the day and what happened in court for us so we can see other areas and wrap up?
How much time do you have?
We have 10 minutes to do this.
Okay. All right. So, generally speaking, just to give and provide context, we saw that the last time the court sat, I think on Friday, the issue of the testimony of the first witness of the petitioner was in issue, and his witness statement was essentially that which he was relying upon as testimony, which, as you very well know, is allowed. And the essence of this is to put out their case. So more or less that was his evidence in chief. And once you have done that, once he has either testified orally or relied on the witness statement as the case was in this particular instance, the other party or parties in this particular instance are entitled to cross-examine the witness, which leads us to the cross-examination that we saw happen today and cross-examination generally. What cross-examination means is that you are questioning a witness or questioning of a witness by another party after the evidence in chief has been given. And the purpose of cross-examination may be to do a number of things. For instance, to attack the credibility of the witness, to have the witness concede key facts you may not be able to obtain from other witnesses, for instance, or have a particular witness confirm key elements of your own case. So in essence, the party may employ cross-examination as a means of strengthening their own case by letting the witness of the other party tell their story, but in your way. So clearly, you see that you can test, or we know that you can test or impugn or impeach the credibility of the witness in question, but then again, there are rules that must be complied with under the Evidence Act, NRCD 323, if you look at section 75 and 680, thereabout. So some of the issues that you must consider, for instance, when you want to test the credibility, which seems to be what, or partly what transpired today, includes the demeanor of the witness, previous inconsistent statements, for instance, that the witness may have made, the character of the witness in terms of traits of honesty or truthfulness or otherwise, and things of that sort. So for instance, if previously or prior to the filing of the suit, you made certain statements that are generally inconsistent with your testimony that you are relying on in the present suit, this can be introduced to essentially discredit you or impugn your credibility as a witness. But the weight that the court will attach to any evidence adduced, including those meant to even impugn your credibility, will be determined by the court, considering all or the totality of the evidence at the close of the case. So we saw what happened in terms of the video or the application for leave to tender the video, for instance, and the fact that the second respondent wanted to play the video and have it identified and things of that sort. We heard things like admissibility, relevance, and there was even an objection that was taken by the counsel for the petitioner, because in their view, they didn't have any problem if the second respondent wanted to show the video in terms of, or for the purposes of testing the witness's credibility, but to the extent that they wanted to show or admit the video into evidence, they felt that it wasn't the proper thing to do at that particular point in time, that they would introduce the subsequent.
Doc, on that one, the tendering of evidence, I mean, what's the significance, if I'll use that word advisedly, if you tender your evidence through a witness that is not your witness, and you tender an evidence through a witness that is your witness? What's the significance? What's the big deal there?
It depends, and I'm getting to that point. I want to just lay the context so that we understand it within the context of what the law provides. I don't want to go into the matters that actually transpire, but if you lay that foundation, people will be able to appreciate it much better. So that happened. So we hear things like admissibility, authentication, identification, and things of that sort. So let's quickly talk about those so that we can situate it within that context. So in terms of authentication and or identification, when we talk about authentication, it's simply the process of proving something to be true or genuine. So it's the process where you show that what the witness or party may be putting forward to the court is what it actually purports to be. And this clearly is associated with identification, which is the process of satisfying the court or tribunal fact that the characteristics or the characteristic features of what a witness or party is putting forward before the court, to identify it generally. And what usually happens is that after the witness identifies an exhibit, then it would have to be authenticated. So we know that, for instance, there are certain permissible means by which an exhibit or evidence can be authenticated according to the Evidence Act. And we see, for instance, that the witness, the first witness of the petitioner, clearly after the video was played, because the court gave the ruling that the video should be played, regardless. So the video was played, and the witness clearly identified himself in the statements that he made on the recording. He was clear to sort of dissociate himself from any other statements made by any other party, but he was he clearly, for want of a better word, identified himself as the one in the recordings, making those specific statements. And I don't think the issue of authenticity of the video recording came into question. I could be terribly wrong, because we are on the outside and not necessarily privy to everything that happens on the inside, but that's just a general view of things that happen. Then you come to admissibility. So we know that the only type of evidence that is admissible is relevant evidence, and that's what the Evidence Act says. Relevant evidence is admissible except it is otherwise deemed not to be admissible. So evidence is not admissible except it is. What do we mean by relevant? When we keep on talking about relevant evidence, what does it mean? There's a famous case called DPP and Kilborn. It's a 1973 appeals cases in the United Kingdom, where the court generally suggested that evidence is relevant if it is logical, probative, or disprobative, or evidence which make the matter which requires proof more or less probable. So what this means is that in Ghana, relevant evidence will mean or include evidence that is relevant to the credibility of a witness, which makes the existence of any fact that is of consequence, for instance, any fact that the witness has testified to, more or less probable
than it would be without that particular evidence. So evidence can only be deemed relevant if it has something to do with or has some material connection with the fact which is an issue. It has probative value, as we've heard them say. And probative value simply means that it is sufficiently useful, for instance, to prove something important in the trial. So and that's why it can be objected to when you are trying to tender in evidence. And even if not objected to the court on its own volition, if it feels that the evidence is irrelevant, can exclude it per Section 8 of NRCD 323. But we need to understand also that relevant evidence does not necessarily mean conclusive evidence. And the fact that it may be admitted does not also mean that the evidence is necessarily true. The key point here is relevancy, or the relevance of that particular evidence, which we keep hearing. And we also know that even if evidence is relevant, it can nonetheless be excluded for a number of reasons, like if you are simply presenting cumulative evidence or presenting evidence that's relevant but tends to confuse the issues and things of that sort. But a critical thing that we need to talk about, and I know you have to go, but we need to put this in.
Okay, all right. That's the final point we can wrap up.
Yes, the final point that I'm going to make. That we need to understand that in a civil case, for instance, or cases generally, there's a burden to produce evidence on the party. So, for instance, a petitioner in an election petition or a plaintiff in a civil suit, for instance, once you bring the action in court, there's a burden to produce evidence which is incumbent on you, which requires you to produce sufficient evidence which on the totality of all the evidence will lead reasonable minds to the conclusion that the existence of the fact was more probable than its non-existence. So generally speaking, all the evidence that the petitioner through his witnesses introduces or will introduce and are deemed admissible, and on the totality of all the evidence that is adduced during the hearing, it must be able to substantiate the petitioner's critical claim. One of the critical claims the petitioner makes, that no one indeed met the Article 63 threshold of the Constitution, that no candidate obtained more than 50% of the total valid votes cast. In other words, on the totality of all the evidence, there should be the conclusion that the existence of a fact, that is, no one met the Article 63 threshold, was more probable than its non-existence. That is, that indeed the second respondent met that Article 63 threshold. That in cross-examination, the party engaging in that process is entitled to essentially let you tell your story, but in his own way that will tend to strengthen his case. And that's what generally we've seen the second respondent try to do in this cross-examination, to try to impeach the credibility of the witnesses, get some admissions on the record in order to essentially dismantle the petitioner's case.
All right, I'll leave it here. Thank you very much for your time, and enjoy the rest of your day. We'll talk to you tomorrow, God willing.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay, so you just heard from Dr. Kwekwajiman Budu, who is a lawyer, a law lecturer at the head of law centers and the Gimpa Faculty of Law. We enter today's coverage, and I say thank you very much for you joining us throughout the entire day. And join us same time tomorrow at 9:30, but we'll be on air before 9:30 with our guest, and also take you to the Supreme Court, then come back and later move to the Supreme Court when the hearing begins. My name is George Sapo. It's always good to have you around. It's always good to have us. And I'll see you again when I see you. God willing, tomorrow. Bye-bye.
The bad news is that everyone is a potential victim. But the good news is that everyone is a potential solution. Sensitize the masses to sanitize. Keep a social distance and quarantine. Coronavirus is sweeping over mankind. Everybody must be alert. It's a pandemic we can never take for granted. Must be alert. It's a matter of life we can never take for granted. Discipline and personal hygiene and make sure regularly wash your hands. Keep a distance from everyone. Report anything like a symptom. Serious fever is a symptom. Dry cough is a symptom. Great tamala is a symptom. Itch, eyes and flu is a symptom. Everybody must be alert. It's a global pandemic we can never take for granted. Must be alert. It's a matter of life we can never take for granted. Coronavirus is slipping over mankind. Everybody must be alert.
There are strong women whose stories teach us perseverance, logic, decisiveness, and self-confidence. Being strong is not just about physical abilities, but also emotional, intellectual, and mental strength. Women's Voice is a platform to hear and share stories to encourage women and girls. Women are the real architects of society. It is they who provide the foundation of power, grace, wisdom, justice, creativity, and hope. Join us live every Monday at 4 p.m. on GBC News and GTV, Wednesdays live at 4 p.m. on GBC News and a repeat on Saturdays at 4 p.m. on GBC News and Sundays at 3 p.m. also on GBC News. Women's Voice, no one can make
This might it go.
From Mondays to Thursdays on GBC News Channel at 8:15 p.m.
It's in-depth.
It is compelling.
And it's robust.
Fair, factual,
Non-partisan, objective, and opinionated. We bring your thoughts alive and get you interactive by creating the platform and bringing the best in the field and getting you, our viewer, glued to your seats. With our unique styles and insights beyond what is reported. We are the Reporters Roundtable, and we stand out.
As waste is generated every day, we have an obligation to keep our environment clean every day. We have to do so daily and not on a monthly basis. Every day is sanitation day.
According to